And when you don't have fellowship, if people are just coming to stroke you a check and leave that church and they don't know anything about the person that's on the pews with them, this is me. I think there's something wrong with that. I think it takes both. It takes understanding our responsibilities as a church. But when you focus on worship and praise and the same thing Ron was saying, maybe we're saying the same thing in different ways, the money takes care of itself. The budget takes care of itself. And I never neglected, I told Reverend Griffin, I had Reverend Griffin I told him this the other day. He came to do our church anniversary at Philip, our cousin. The first pastor that preached at every charge I've gone to is my father in the ministry, because he brings it. And if we're talking here about emerging churches, if you go out there and you try to do things on your own, and you don't include your father in the ministry, you don't get to know. I was fortunate in that first year that I was at Grace Temple. I was on every district. I've been on the central, the north, so I know a lot of pastors because of that experience. And so I can call on people in fellowship to help.
Amen.
Worship.
And that last, all these are great points. That last point is so key. If you know you need help, try to get you some help. Amen. Now let me ask another question. I'm going to ask this question in kind of a dignified way. But I need y'all to hit the answer. What are some of the advantages of a bivocational ministry at emerging churches? Let me just do it this way. In many of these emerging churches, should the pastor have another job?
That's a no-brainer, honestly.
I think we need to hear this.
Point blank, and I'm going to put this, and I was going to say this in the previous the previous question. You got to work. I'm sorry. These emerging churches, they can't afford to maintain our lifestyle. I know they can't mine. I told my church when I got there, and I was not being funny, I was being very open and honest with them. We got to make sure we're taking care of the church business. You can't afford what Stephanie makes. So please know what the salary that you want to give me, the salary, that only covers my gas. I live 45 minutes away from my church.
Amen.
And I'm there 3 to 4 times a week. When I get off my paid job that pays me, this is what I do as an offering back to God, what He gave to me. So I don't expect you to maintain my Mercedes. I don't expect you to maintain my 3 children that are in college that I'm paying tuition for. Only thing I'm asking is you to do what God called you to do. And if you do that, God's going to take care of everything else, because we're going to make sure the mortgage is paid. We're going to make sure the bill's paid. My tithes and offerings will take care of that. If I'm as a pastor paying my tithes and offering, that's going to take care of any shortfalls that we might have. So as pastors and leaders, you got to think outside the box. You got to get up out your bed and find a job or something that you can do. Period. Period. That's just that.
She only needed 40 seconds for that. Yes, sir.
With that, I think that it's a situation where I guess it depends on where you're at. Because if you're in charge of a church and you go to work and you get home 6 o'clock, by the time you get home, get off 5, get home 6. You're not getting to know the community. You're not getting out of it, you're not really knowing the people. And it's kind of tough. So it's almost like one of those, a darn if you do, a darn if you don't. So yeah, I understand, we want pastors, you're right, this year, at some point have jobs, but then also it can hurt you, because I give you an example. When they sent me to East Palaca at Mount Olive, I didn't get home. I was working in Jacksonville. I didn't get home until 6:30 every night. So I didn't know the community, didn't know the people. It was tough. And you talking about walking in a dead church and you trying to grow and trying to get people back enthused about ministry. And I think about I think back when I came out of the Baptist church and I watched a lot of the churches around, you know, the people took pride in their pastors. They took care of the pastors. So when I grew up, where I grew up in the churches I grew up in, the pastors didn't work. Their job was to serve the people. And what it was, they were serving the people in every capacity, but you know, you're praying, you're out there, you're doing this, but their job was to serve the people. And so I know we think kind of way about a job, but at the same time, we talk about growing a church and trying to get it done the right way. It's kind of tough. It's kind of one of those things you gotta like, okay, well, what do you do?
Okay, good. There's a hand in the back, and this is what I want, right? This is good discussion, and as what I'm doing, I'm timing everyone. I'm giving everyone up to 2 minutes. But let me say this before we have the next comment. There is no perfectly right, perfectly wrong, and I want to just up front. I want to honor and just value everyone who has the courage to speak your heart, because this is the only way we become better, by having honest dialogue. And we knew as a planning committee, when we got to this issue of bivocationalism, we were hopeful that it would spur some conversation. So this is exactly what we had hoped, and the outcome of this is going to be for the good of the kingdom. Reverend Williams, speaking in the mic. So
I do agree with Reverend Jones. I look myself, but I also believe that we got to be the example. I leave Mayport. I leave the military base, and there's times where I have to be back out to Crescent City. That's a long way, especially when I'm working 10 hours a day. But I get there, and the people are happy to see me. Although I'm late, nevertheless, I'm there. And that says a lot to them, because they'd rather see me come late than not to have an attitude of coming at all. So we have to do what we have to do. I think that once we get out of how much you can give me, and how, as opposed to how much I can give back to you, once we get past that, then we allow people to see that, hey, we're not just there for a dollar bill, but we're actually there because we have a concern for them. And that works.
Amen. Thank you, sir. I know I saw
Reverend Cole.
Okay, Reverend Victor Cole.
Reverend Williams, I'm gonna say what I was gonna say. Over the years, I've done the same thing. I've been bi-vocational, and my attitude has always been, if God had placed me there, that God will equip me or put people around me to bless the ministry. And when I wasn't at work, I was available to the members at all costs, at all personal costs. So it meant me leaving Jacksonville, driving back to Orlando to visit someone in the hospital, I would do it. I've done it. If it meant leaving Jacksonville, driving back to Lake City to see someone in the hospital, I would do it. I may or may not spend the night, but if they needed to see me, I would go. Because I did not want them to say, well, he's at work. And so I did not let that hinder my giving back my service.
Amen. Thank you, sir.
It's about time. You have to, it's about your time. I can say I go to work at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm there at 7 so that I can get off by 4 o'clock. At 4 o'clock, I'm leaving there. If it's a Monday or Monday and Wednesday now, if I have to go and do visits to the sick, I'm doing those on Mondays and Tuesdays, or Mondays and Wednesdays. Now I'm doing Bible study on Tuesday evenings. So I'm leaving work, coming to the church or in the community, seeing what I can do. On top of that, I'm running a business. So I'm pulled, and don't mention school, because I just had to go spend 5 years going through to get my master's in divinity and finishing the process. So I'm making sure that I'm putting time in where I can, and still not neglecting the fact that I have 3 children at home and 2 that just went off to college. So I made the sacrifice because this is what God called me to do. So if that means I don't get home until 9 o'clock at night, guess what? I get home at 9 o'clock. Jump in the bed, get homework done, and then try to get back up and do it all again the next day. It's about your commitment. It's about truly giving God what God deserves. And if that means that Stephanie only gets 4 to 5 hours of sleep a night, it's okay. I'm going to sleep when I get to heaven.
All right.
once again, I think it just goes all the way back to your sister situation. And I take for this one, my father in the ministry. We, from 2007 to the time I left, we grind. I didn't work, he didn't work, his job was the church, and we grind. We were in every school, we were in every community, every hole in the community. We had a 350 count outreach ministry. Our youth organization here was approximately about 40 to 50. We ran a summer camp that was maxed out every summer. So it just all depends on, I guess, your situation, where you're at, and how you look at it. Because during that time, I couldn't work no outside job. He ain't working no outside job. We were hand in hand. It was a grind, and we did it all for God. So it just, I guess, like I say, it's one of those things where, whichever works for you, but, either way.
As they used to say in the days of old, where there's a will, there's a way. And you know what? If you pastor a church with 5 people, you know you need to get you a job and go to work. Simple as that. You need to get your job and go to work. Because there are obligations that has to be met in the church. And the church does, you are the church. And the building does not work. I've written from Jacksonville to Eatonville for 2 years. Held a full-time job. Was out to work every Monday morning. Because I like to eat. And I don't want nobody to tell me what to eat. When time to eat. So the Bible says if you don't work, you don't eat. So
Now, is it on the same topic or a different question?
Same topic.
Okay, good.
My question is, how do you view pastors who don't take a salary at all? And what effect does this have on the church?
Can you make sure they hear that question? Because that's a powerful question. Say that again.
I said, how do you view pastors who don't take a salary at all? And what effect does a pastor not being paid have on the church?
That is I didn't even have that question on my list. That's an awesome, I've got an answer, but I want you all to.
Well, hold up. In my situation at Grace Temple, I didn't take a salary, I think, for the first maybe 6 or 7
I don't know. You looking at me like
because I would go and I would report. But the thing is, even at Grace Temple, when it came to a point where we were able, the stewards and trustees wanted to help the pastor. And then when we did reach a point where, it wasn't anything super, but I think the impact on the church, I know there are situations because of things that have gone on, the rumors and the talk that goes on where people do feel that why should we pay? Because I had a gentleman say to me, he said his attitude was, I don't know why we gotta pay pastors. That was just, he said, and that's some attitude because of the hurt that some ministers have done to churches. And the question that Reverend Griffin raised about the priorities, in some situations, the priority is the pastor wants his off the top. Amen. Am I being honest? Yes. Am I being, right? So, all of these situations, we have to balance. In my position, to me, it was an honor just being allowed to pastor. And then,
No, let me rephrase that. It is an honor.
Yeah.
And the reason why I want, because I think every current and future pastor needs to understand pastoring is a privilege, it's not a right.
It is.
And so I just want to make sure.
It is. But the thing about it is then, as I have moved from church to church to church,